Welcome to Vamp Chat with Dan and Eva, the podcast devoted to vampire fiction, fanged folklore, and the gothic imagination. I'm Dan Klefstad, author of Fiona's Guardians and its brand new sequel, Sins of the Sire.
And I'm Eva Vertrice, author of the Fury trilogy. Book 1, A Fury, and now Book 2, A Hellish Fury, is also available.
This is also the first time we are coming to you live via a 21st century invention called StreamYard, which will allow us to be seen on multiple places, including YouTube, Facebook, and I'm sure other platforms once we figure it all out. So be sure to like, comment, and subscribe.
Actually, it's StreamYard, but yes, do all of those things. Oh, and be sure to go to our website, vampchatwithdanandeva.com, and give us your email address. We're going to have some inside fan info that you won't want to miss. And with that said, welcome to our new video home.
Yay.
Yay! Okay, Dan, we have news to share. We added a new date to the Dan and Eva book tour, which we are very excited about. And Dan, you can get into that in a second. But first, I want to tell you what's happening later this hour. So I know that you're not from Kentucky, but I was born and raised here. So I'm very aware of some of the stories from the Appalachian Mountains. There's the Mothman of West Virginia, the shape-shifting Wampus cat, the eerie Not Deer, and the mysterious Moon-Eyed People. But did you know there's also a vampire tale?
I did not.
Well, I'm going to tell you about it later this hour.
Well, I cannot wait to hear for that. It sounds a little like the book Down Home Country Vampire. Remember then when we had Skeeter and Wright on the show? Oh, my goodness. Oh, now about that new date on the Dan and Eva book tour. We are going on a road trip back to Richmond, Virginia for 3 events on September 25 and 26. On Friday night, the 25th, we will join Strange Richmond Tours for a walk throughout downtown in search of the Richmond Vampire.
Then on Saturday, we'll do a book signing at Abby's Books and Brews near the campus of Virginia Commonwealth University. I can't wait to try that. That'll be from noon to 3, and we look forward to autographing our vampire novels for you.
And the fun continues. Later that evening, we will stream Vamp Chat live from a nightclub called Dream House, starting at 8 p.m. We are close to nailing down our guests for that evening, but they will include tour guide extraordinaire Jeffrey Holmes of Strange Richmond Tours.
And the high point of the weekend comes after the show from in the form of a vampire ball. So I gotta find my ball gown. I gotta make sure it still fits. Oh my god!
I just got a new frock coat, so I'm kind of excited about this.
We are super excited about this, and a huge thanks to Strange Richmond Tours for sponsoring us. You can learn more about them at strangerva.com.
All right. The time has arrived for us to introduce tonight's guest. William Xavier Chandler is the author of a 2-part series of vampire novels called the Davis McCarty Saga. The first in that series is House of the Black Moon. William Chandler, welcome to Vamp Chat.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Good to be here.
No, it's great to have you on the show. All right, William. Let's begin with your protagonist, Davis McCarty. McCarty. Who is a shy, poor, handsome nobody in West Texas. He lives a sheltered existence raised by a woman he calls Mama Mona. But in the first few chapters, she reveals a long-buried truth about his family. And the shock of learning this causes Davis to withdraw and seek solace in music. Tell us about the band that he gravitates towards.
So yeah, Unholy Saint is the name of that band. They're formed in California, in the Dogtown area of California. And I didn't try to base them on any, real band. I just kind of picked these characters out of my head and kind of threw them into their instruments and created basically this lore for them. And I'm probably going to actually flesh out what are now just song titles and turn them into actual songs and record those Unholy Saint albums that I put in the book. But yeah, so that's the it's the link that kind of draws Davis to what he finds out is his real mom, and just by trying to kind of figure out her past and link it to him, he as if by fate discovers this band, falls in love with them, and hadn't really fallen in love with anything entertainment wise in any form or method before this band. And that is the unfortunate character flaw or monumental bad decision that he makes in doing so, because it changes his life. It in effect ends his life and starts him on a path to try to regain that humanity.
Right, right. Well, soon Davis learns that this band, Unholy Saint, is coming to Abilene. Now, initially, they're scheduled to play at the Paramount Theater, but a large contingent of the city's morality police are pushing for a venue change. Unholy Saint will now play at another venue called Guitars and Cadillacs, and Davis is super pumped for this show. I'd like you to describe the band members and the effect each has on the audience, including Davis.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So the front man of this group is your typical front man. He's taller than most. He looms large. He's not, an Adonis, but he's a fairly good looking guy, and he's multi-ethnic. And it just kind of has this exotic kind of charisma about him that, all the great front men do. He's maybe the face of the band, but he's not the leader of the band. That would be the guitar player, Alistair. And we're, as in other bands like Led Zeppelin, Oasis, etc., it's that guitar player who does the lion's share of the creative work and the directing things, behind the scenes, so that what you see on stage or what you hear on an album is really their brainchild. And Alistair's no different in that regard. The bass player is a young woman who draws several males, including Davis, to gaze her way, because she's beautiful, but not just beautiful. She's tough, and she's smart, and she commands the stage, just as well as her bandmates do. And then you've got the drummer, Robert, and he doesn't talk, he doesn't give interviews, he drums. And even on stage, he doesn't look into the crowd. He doesn't pump them up. He doesn't get them going. He drums. And so the four of them, I think, as with a lot of real life bands, they're greater than the sum of their parts. And they all have this bit to play that kind of strengthens them. And the description I give to what their sound is, and I can't even remember it, at the moment. It's from a fake music review of one of their albums in House of the Black Moon. Definitely they draw from a bunch of different influences to create the sound that you hear, and it's a sound that maybe Davis has never heard before, even as kind of a novice at being a music fan. It's still something that's different to anything he has heard, and kind of draws him in almost automatically. And except for their visual imagery, which he doesn't quite, agree with, I guess, because he's, raised in the Bible Belt, and his mother's a very strict Christian. That's the kind of beginning of his conflict with actually loving this band and not knowing how much he should be loving this band, or are they the Pied Piper that maybe he shouldn't follow down the street?
Awesome. Okay, we don't want to spoil anything, but at some point, Davis does become a vampire against his will and starts transitioning. Tell us about the symptoms he experiences.
Well, he experiences a pain unlike anything, a human should feel, definitely unlike anything he's ever felt. It's like searing, coursing acid through the veins, kind of a necrotizing effect, both inside and outward to his appearance. Skin goes, greenish gray, veins protruding. You can see basically the blackening of the blood in his veins, and just horrible convulsions. And it's basically like if if a million brown recluse spiders were biting you all at once, I would kind of equate that to what would happen to a human. But it doesn't kill him, and he doesn't understand. He doesn't understand what's happening. In his mind, vampires are, works of fiction, and they're in the movies, and he's still trying to piece together that he's actually becoming one in real time. And he manages to experience a little bit of the benefits of being a vampire, because once he gets his legs under him, he can actually run faster than normal. He can't fly, and he doesn't have wings or a cape yet, but he can move. And once he gets to his house and gets in the mirror, he basically sees his visual form changing in front of him. The eyelids, the pupils, his eyeballs, basically the entire eye changes in some form or fashion. And just the skin, he sees it not being the, Texas suntanned, sun-scorched skin that he's used to. It's changing, and I think it takes Davis, a while to realize that he is a tried and true vampire, and he's just been, bitten on the neck, and like, what does that even mean? What is it? He's seeing what it looks like, but what does it mean for him in the long term? And as his, mother, or who we think is his mother at one point, is knocking on the bathroom door trying to figure out, what the hell's going on. The thing that he does notice, besides an acute sense of hearing now, is he can smell her blood. And he doesn't know why, but he wants it. And he feels that somehow instinctively that this is the only thing that can maybe stop or improve agony he's going. And the thought of that scares him to death, because he loves this woman more than anything on earth. And, just the sheer kind of, even for a moment, thought that he could harm her or do something to cause her harm, really, affects him emotionally. It causes this heightened sense of, I guess, danger, where he feels that he's now a threat in his own house. And he starts to move pretty quickly on, what the next steps are, what he needs to do to solve this problem, and the book goes from there.
Now, we want the readers to discover the story, but a key theme is Davis's struggle to hold on to his humanity. And part of that struggle involves a former classmate of his, a young woman named Annie, who becomes close to Davis when he's human. Tell us more about Annie.
So Annie is that girl next door, what me and my friends in high school called unfair, because they didn't seem like a goddess, but they still didn't seem like someone who was ever in your league at all, especially for Davis, because Eva, you look like you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Gene pool isn't fair sometimes. I mean,
right. And Annie was one of those people that she won the lottery when it came to not only her gene pool, but her upbringing, her very, I guess, affluent upbringing and affluent parents, and to think that she would ever even want to form a friendship with someone like Davis, who literally is the kid that he was too far down the totem pole to even be made fun of. He was basically just ignored, and he didn't really have anything, I guess, to offer the other kids growing up. So he basically was an afterthought, and lives in a part of Abilene that's an afterthought. And I tried to not make it so just unbelievable that Annie and Davis would have this relationship, and definitely wanted to make him as surprised as anybody to find out that she actually was still sticking around, and she was a friend, and this friendship lasts, it ends up lasting basically a decade in the book. And I think that certain people will be able to read this and relate to either that one that got away, or the girl that they always hoped would be, you know, more than a friend or even a friend. And for Davis, he gets to kind of embody that person, and maybe he is the one in a million, and maybe he isn't. I won't give that away, but yeah.
Right.
Okay, well, one thing we haven't delved into is the setting for this book. I mean, West Texas. So,
Yeah.
what about the land here, the climate, the local industry makes it fertile ground to tell a vampire story?
So I think it makes it fertile ground just to have something spooky. And I didn't know when I first started down this path that it would necessarily be a vampire tale. But I'm originally from Lubbock, and now I live in North Texas, in like 15 minutes west of Fort Worth. And so I go back home to Lubbock at least twice a year and visit family, and I drive the same route all the time. And especially around the Abilene Sweetwater area, you just can see abandoned houses that are maybe, you know, 100 to 150 years old, abandoned businesses, granaries, mills, and any turn and exit off of the highway looks like it can lead you down something out of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. and driving these roads, you know, and riding them as a kid for now well over like 45 years, I would just kind of get that, you get that tense, you know, what if this happened? What if I broke down in the middle of nowhere? You know, the way it looks at night looks definitely like a fertile breeding ground for vampires or anything that might snatch you, you know, on the plains, on the flat plains of Texas. And so when it came time to kind of give this guy a setting, that was, I think it just came like out of the blue. I didn't want to put it right in my backyard, and I didn't want to necessarily write about something that I knew too much about. I could take my experience of driving to and from and driving through Abilene all the time to kind of give me a jumping ground that was just as much a spark for my imagination as it was for, you know, my visual history of driving those roads. And I think it helps definitely set the mood. At the beginning, I try to make Texas just as much of a character in the book as Davis.
Yeah, and it seems you've done it.
Yeah.
I want to get back to Davis's experience as a newly created vampire. Right. During his transition, you lay out certain tropes or conventions which help shape the story. And we are all about tropes on Vamp Chat. Tell us about the strengths and limitations you chose to give Davis and why.
Okay, good. So, and for me, I think I'm like the anti-trope guy because I hate that word, because it seems to be like kind of like force fed to me. Like, and I tried to write something. I tried to write a vampire story that was completely, I guess, rewriting the mythology of the vampire. So for instance, you know, there are no such things as coffins in this book. You know, vampires don't live their life, you know, and end it, you know, from sundown to sunup. There's, you know, they're still trying to figure out a way to navigate the world, and see if they can push that boundary and exist in the sun. And if they do go out in the sun, they don't, you know, combust like a lot of vampires do. They don't, you know, burst into flames or that. And, you know, stakes through the heart really don't do it. You know, they kind of help to get a vampire to their final resting place, but it's not the be all end all. I think one major diversion from my vampires and others is they're not really super sexual at all. And their plumbing actually doesn't work unless you know, they are able to feed, and it has to work basically simultaneously. Other than that, they're pretty, you know, lonely, kind of depressed characters. And that's why the band is such an anomaly. and because not only are the vampires in the universe basically trying to not, rock the boat and they stay in the lane, and the ones that interact with humans do so on a very kind of almost secret society kind of basis, highly exclusive like clientele. The band, they are trying to be famous, and that, and not like the vampire Lestat famous where everyone realizes he's a vampire. They're trying to still stay under the radar when it comes to their true identities. They just happen to love music so much that this is kind of what brought them together. And they're like, why not? We're American vampires. We do things differently than, our forefathers in Europe and whatnot. And so they tend to go for it. And that, maybe that might lead to their demise. It might lead to like the busting open of the doors of vampires, as something that actually exists instead of, as a fictional character. And I think other than that, the differences between the standard vampire trope and what I've created they're kind of just little tidbits and details that you hear in their dialogue, and you realize that they're, almost still human, and vampire tends to be like the condition they're afflicted with.
You've almost made me feel sorry for them.
Yeah.
I'm like, I feel bad for them. I'm like, oh my gosh.
I think at least for Davis, the plan is to make you feel sorry for him, and kind of make you frustrated with him at the same time.
Yeah.
Because he makes some pretty bonehead decisions as a guy trying to figure this out, and basically figure out what he is. And yeah, sometimes it's you wanna wring his neck, but you kind of feel sorry for him at the same time.
I almost am like, do they need Viagra?
Basically, the blood is the Viagra.
Well, that's a new take on the Dracula line. The blood is the Viagra.
Exactly.
All right. Okay.
Or the spicy cube, or whatever.
Right.
So let's go back further in your life, William.
Okay, yeah.
When did you first become interested in vampires?
I mean, I'd probably seen Dracula and Nosferatu by the time I was like 4 years old. So I grew up loving, the Universal monsters, and then basically just was a horror fan because I had a horror fan for a father. I was exposed to horror very early on. And, you can go one of two ways when you're little. It can scare the life out of you, and you never want to watch a horror movie ever again. Or you can fall in love with it. So I fell in love with it. And so in that regard, it kind of it's not a huge surprise that I would write horror. I think the kind of evolution of me as a vampire writer, it comes from binge watching True Blood the second time around, because the first time around, I think me and my wife both kind of lost interest. We hope the series jumped the shark at a certain point and we didn't finish it. Yeah. And so several years later, we said, you know what, it kind of kept on jumping. The topic kept on jumping back into our lives. So we went back and rewatched it. And I'm glad we did for several reasons. One of which is that it inspired a song I wrote. And the song is actually what inspired the first book. So without the song, the book doesn't happen. And without going back and watching True Blood again, and I watched several other vampire movies around the same time, just on my own, they kind of told me that the lyrics I was writing in this song were about a vampire. And then before the song was finished, I think the character of Annie is actually introduced into the song. And it was going to be called Annie More, and changed the lyrics and the title of the song to Anymore. But I had these two characters, and I was like, something tells me that they deserve more than just this 4-minute song. And so I wrote a chapter 1, I wrote a prologue, and I was like, let me see where this goes. And went ahead and created an outline from there, and wrote the book in pretty short order, basically 6 months, but not 6 months the way a normal author can maybe lock themselves in a room and write 8 hours a day. I was writing 10 minutes here and 20 minutes there, and maybe if my wife goes to bed early and I want to stay up, I wrote an hour or two at night, and before you knew it, 6 months later, I had the book. So from the first word typed to the date of publication was, November of 24 to May of 25. And before that was over, I already knew I was going to write a sequel.
Yeah. We'll get to that in a little bit. But first, speaking to you as a musician now, when I talk to musicians about the composing process, many of them start out on piano, and then they rework it into the song into a guitar or string arrangement of some sort. How do you build a song?
So before I could actually play an instrument, I started with lyrics, and I would write an entire song just from the lyrics and then build instruments around that, kind of like the way that the Doors built their songs around Jim Morrison's lyrics. Mm-hmm. And then the next thing was guitar. I'd had one for probably about 6 years before I learned to play it. And then one day when I was 15, just got serious. And from then on, all my songwriting came from writing on the guitar first. And when I'm writing with the guitar, I can hear the other instruments as I'm writing it. So I know what I want the bass to do. I know what I want the drums to do. When I was able to get my band together, sometimes my drummer, who's still one of my closest friends, over 33 years later, he knew exactly what I wanted and could do it. And sometimes, just as a drummer and a creative person himself, he would create something different. And sometimes I didn't dig it too much, and sometimes it was perfect for the song. So it's funny that you mentioned piano, because I wish now that it was something that I learned really how to play. And I can write songs on the piano, but I can't play the piano. And it definitely, I think, made me the better musician, and probably made me a better guitar player. It would have definitely helped with these songs I wrote that inspired the book and have since been inspired by the book, because I'm going to put out an EP of songs inspired by House of the Black Moon. But several of them actually have piano in the song. And I can tell a piano player, this is exactly what I want you to do, but I can't really play it myself. So if I could, that would have made this entire process much easier.
Now,
Wanted piano player.
Exactly.
Now, did you base the characters for Unholy Saint on your band a little bit?
No.
Okay.
And I don't know exactly, visibly or even the personalities where they came from. I just knew that the female in the band was going to have to be kind of paramount to the story. And so I wanted to make sure that no matter what, I got her right. And in my head, as I would write these characters and think of this band, the person that kind of jumped in my head more than anybody was Darcy Redsky, the original bass player of Smashing Pumpkins.
Okay, yeah.
And I kind of put her together with Melissa Oftemar, who was famous for being in Hole, and they're both bass players. And so kind of put them together. And the woman that you see on the cover of House of the Black Moon, that's basically a very accurate depiction of not only the female character, but kind of the amalgamation of Darcy and Melissa.
Awesome. Okay, well, House of the Black Moon is the first of a two-part series called the Davis McCarty. Is it McCarty or McCarthy?
It's McCarty.
McCarty.
McCarty. Yeah, no H,
Okay.
yeah.
So I had it right first. Tell us about the second book, House of the Winged God, real quick.
Yes, so House of the Winged God, it takes the story that's still set in the American Southwest, and it goes way farther. It takes Davis to France and to Serbia. And he, without giving too much of the second book away, he is in search of the world's very first vampire. And in the first book, he's told that this vampire is dead, which may or may not be true. And because he didn't get the closure and the, I'd say, redemption that he was seeking in the first book, he thinks that maybe if he finds this vampire, he can get it. So, you know, him just leaving the confines of Abilene was a huge culture shock for him. To go, 4 hours west, still in Texas, was a big deal. So for him to actually go overseas and having to navigate that as a vampire, because you can't just get on the 11 a.m. flight at DFW and head that way. It requires a lot of logistics, more planning than the typical traveler, and so that's the second book. And I'd say crazy hijinks ensue, and just and it's kind of a short time window, because the very first book basically starts in, say, January of 2021, and the second book ends still just in the same calendar year. And so there's a lot of, rapid fire changes going on in Davis's life, and a lot of, new relationships, old relationships dying, kind of rekindling certain, connections. And I knew by the time before the second book was finished, I knew that I'd be writing a third and final book. So it will be a trilogy. I do know the title. I won't give that away. I think people who get all the way to the end of the second book, I think you can pretty much figure out what the title is. But yeah, so it'll be a trilogy. And then after that, I'm done with Davis McCarty.
Okay. Yeah.
whether he makes it out alive, whether he doesn't, whether he becomes human again, I mean, no matter what the final word of that book is, his story's over. And I've realized that now I just want to write all the time. And so, in between publishing the second book and getting started on the third one, I published 2 short stories. And then the initial plan was to publish 2 to 3 more before I even got started on the third book. But now I realize that third one is going to be it's going to take up so much time and be so involved, because I want it to be so much better than the first 2, that I'm actually going to get started on it now. That way I can, do something I haven't done before, and it's like rewrite and revise and be trim fat, because I'm not good at doing that. At the same time, I don't write way more than a lot of people do. I don't take like a 900-page manuscript and narrow it down to 300 pages. Both of the first 2 books are 350 to 365 in terms of reading pages, and that's basically what I typed. There wasn't much adding or subtracting after the first draft. So I want to make sure that I've taken what I've learned with these first 2 books and really kind of go for a gold medal with the third one, especially if it is going to be the end of his story.
Well, very cool. So, William, you are now an experienced author, and so I'm sure you've developed some opinions about what makes good storytelling, what is a good approach to writing. If for the new writers of whatever age who are listening to us right now, watching this podcast, what advice do you have for them as they are just starting out?
Oh, that's good. And a good way to put me on the spot. But yes. And it's funny because I started an actual author fest here in Alito, Texas. And one of the questions I asked for the author spotlight flyers for all the attending authors was, what advice do you have for, brand new writers or people who want to write? And I think for me, it's, have an interesting character and an interesting story. And, what does that mean on its surface? I think it's, if you can describe in either one sentence or one paragraph your character and your story to someone, and they look excited instead of, oh, okay, then I think that's the first step to writing a good book. And I think.
Wait, slow down. I'm actually writing this down now.
And I think that character has to be either really likable or really hateable, because he doesn't. The protagonist doesn't have to be the good guy, and I think, especially where Davis McCarty is concerned, maybe he's a good guy and a bad guy. I don't think he's necessarily a hero. I think he's more of an anti-hero, and one who doesn't really care about the, should I do this, or was that the right thing to do? It's the, how do I survive? And, are my decisions going to allow me to continue to survive, whether they seem boneheaded or completely idiotic or not? So if that character has depth, so interesting character, really likable or really hateable with depth, I think is a very good start.
I'm a sucker for an anti-hero.
Yeah, me too.
If you're just joining us, we are speaking with William Xavier Chandler, author of the Davis McCarty saga. William, stay with us while we tease the final segment of our program where we review films and TV series. And Dan, I understand you're reviewing an animated series starring the world's most famous vampire.
Yes. Tonight I will review season 1 of the animated series Castlevania, which features a character named Vlad Dracula Tepish.
Because it's such a good series. I can't wait to hear your thoughts about it. All right, William, we've arrived at that point where we ask you our 4 vampy questions. Dan, you want to begin again?
Okay. All right, William, who is your favorite vampire of all time and why?
I think my favorite vampire of all time is Gary Oldman's Dracula.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yes. Well, I think and why, here, right?
And why is because he's such a great actor who added depth to that character. He's not a villain in everyone's eyes, and nor should he be considered the good guy, I think, in maybe anyone's eyes. And there's a feeling, there's a longing he has, and there's definitely an empathy that I had with his character.
I think we either talked about it or I heard it somewhere, but he got so into character that he actually freaked Winona Ryder out.
I've read that too.
Yeah, he gets into character, I think, with every character. And
she was actually freaked out, and in the images of them like embracing, she was actually like not wanting to really do it, is what I kind of heard. So,
and I would think that Coppola probably ate that up. But yeah.
Okay, William, what vampire power do you wish you had?
Ooh. I want to say super speed, because they all seem to be super fast nowadays. And I kind of like the shape shifting, you know, and not just into a vampire bat, but maybe the wisp of a mist that, you know, enters a room that can, you know, get through closed doors, or a wolf or some other cryptid. And yeah, I'd say super speed and shape shifting.
Very cool. Are you team Louis or team Lestat?
And I knew you were going to ask. I've gone back and forth on this.
I can see that. I can totally see you going back and forth on that.
But I want to say that I'm team Louis. I think my initial instinct was Louis, and I'll so far the latest resting spot is still there. And you know, both personalities and both existences and kind of both philosophies are valid. I would, if it was me, I'd probably be more like Louis, so that's why I choose him.
Yeah.
Okay, so that pulls into the last question. Would you want to be turned into a vampire, and if so, why?
No, because I am one of those control freaks who likes to have this semblance of control over my life and my physicality and you know, my instincts. And I think no matter what the benefits of being a vampire are, I think that I wouldn't be happy being bound to the constraints of being a vampire. I'm naturally a night person, but I want to go out in the day. I don't want to. I love the beach. I want to enjoy it, you know, in the daytime. I love the summers. I love hot summers in the sun. And so yeah, if I was given the choice, I'd say, you know what? And then there's you know, when vampires, even there's that kind of promise of immortality, they all seem to fade to dust at one point. So it's kind of like it's not a good bill of goods. And two, if I manage to actually be the one who lives thousands and thousands of years, that's, I'd say, a pretty lonely existence. Because, you know, like we've seen in every show and movie and book, the people you grow to love, they die and you keep going on. So I wouldn't want to do that multiplied by, you know, hundreds of lifetimes.
Yeah. Well said.
Yeah. Well, William Chandler, thank you so much for joining us. Where can we learn more about you and your books?
So you can go to thewilliamxavier.com. And my books are there. I have a series of blog entries there that, you know, don't necessarily revolve around writing at all. They just revolve around whatever I'm thinking about or going through, you know, at the time. And music tends to be a huge recurring theme there naturally, because that's, I think, what I do best is music. And ways to find the books are there. Basically, I think it's a good one-stop shop. And of course, I have an Insta and a Facebook like most people.
All right. It's been a real blast talking with you, William, and we hope to have you on again when book 3 is done.
Absolutely.
So, thank you very much. I hope so too. And I wanted to say congratulations on your scorched earth kind of Viking raping and pillaging book tour that now isn't just in Kentucky, but also has included other states.
Yes.
Well. So, yeah, big congrats on that. I think it's one thing that authors hope to be able to do, and you're doing it. I think that's just a great thing.
Well, thank you. We hope to still be talking to each other by the end of the tour.
I may have spent way too much time with this man by the time it's all over with. I'm like, see ya.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I get that too. So, yeah, hopefully it doesn't. Hopefully it's not the Dan and Eva farewell tour.
Right. Yes. But that gives people a chance to like want us back. You know, I mean, that would be. And some drama.
What is it when you retire and then you turn around and you have like with bands
You
do
do
it
the
all the time?
reunion tour.
Reunion
Yes.
tour.
Yeah,
We
exactly.
put aside our artistic differences and
Yeah.
it's time to go on tour again.
It's the Dan and Eva Undead Vampire Tour.
Right. Well, thanks again so
Thank
much for joining
you.
us, William, and we wish you
Yeah.
all the best while you're composing your third book.
Yep.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
We'll see you.
Okay, take care. All right, that was fun. Yeah, great talking with William. I mean, we don't get many. In fact, I don't think I've ever read before a West Texas vampire
No.
tale before. So that was really, really cool.
And Texas is really hot and really sunny.
Yeah, yeah, not an ideal place if you believe in the tropes that we do, that we use for our writing. Vampires burn, under the sun. So that's a nice extra level of challenge that he's given his protagonist.
I hate to say it, but he's got like this is so bad. My mind is a horrible place to be sometimes. But like I really feel sorry for like the vampires in this universe.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can only like have sex when you're taking the blood, like that's depressing. Because what if you're really bad at feeding? I mean, then you just I guess you just walk into the Texas sun and do it over, end it all. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, it sounds like a kink to me, but whatever. To each their own. Consenting adults. I don't care.
I was like, oh my god, I feel so bad for these people.
Oh yeah.
I guess masturbation's off the table. I mean,
yeah.
I don't want to know where my mind's going with this. Okay, let's move on.
Let's move away from Eva's mind for a second here. We have arrived at our next segment, the one we call Fanged Folklore.
Oh
and Eva, I understand you have found a vampire hiding out in the Appalachian Mountains.
I have, or at least what appears to be. Okay, now, as I said earlier, the Appalachian Mountains are no stranger to weird and fantastic stories. I mean, all you got to do is start investigating the Mothman, and literally you can go down a rabbit hole for years. So I was talking with someone last week about what it's like in the Appalachian Mountains, and the idea hit me to see if maybe, just maybe, there was a vampire story. I mean, there's every other story, so I mean, why not this? And guess what I discovered?
That there actually is one?
Yes, there actually is one. And I was super excited to learn about it, so I could tell you. Okay.
All right.
So it actually takes place in Virginia. And I guess first I should explain that the mountains span across 14 U.S. states as they stretch from the northeastern border down to the southeastern United States. Now, the hillbilly portion of the mountains is most strongly associated with the residents of West Virginia, Kentucky, Tennessee, Virginia. So specifically within the central subregion of the mountains known as Southern Appalachia. And this is important, so keep it, just, put it in the back of your head. Okay, the story takes place in Virginia, close to the Kentucky and Tennessee borders, in a place called Big Stone Gap. Now, I've been there on my motorcycle, and it is gorgeous territory. I mean, it's take your breath away territory. Okay, now Big Stone Gap took its name in 1888, and during the late 1890s, there was a coal boom, and the town drew a lot of diverse European immigrants. I mean, people from all over Europe migrated to the town with dreams of making it rich. And the area, just to note, it's still coal mine area. Okay. So here's where the story gets a little fuzzy, as happens with most folklore. What seems to be consistent is that a farmer went out into his field and found 2 of his prize-winning cattle dead. Now, most accounts say they were dismembered. Some say only their heads and hindquarters were left behind. But what's the same is that the animals were all drained of blood. And that's what makes it different from, a normal predator attack. And in the days and weeks to follow, more livestock met the same fate, all dismembered and drained of blood. Now, remember, the boom came mostly from European immigrants who would have brought their stories of blood-sucking demons with them. So it's only natural that those who first settled there blamed these demons for every nasty thing that happened to them. I mean, it's what they were used to doing.
Yeah, we've discussed this on previous episodes with other American vampire legends.
Yeah, exactly. So now we start speculating on who could it be. But in the meantime, and here's where the story gets a little fuzzy again, there is a man, either the town drunk or a traveling salesman, I've seen them referenced both ways, who disappears. Days later, he's found in the woods, dead, an arm and a leg missing, and drained of all his blood.
Ah! Well, grab your pitchforks! We're going vampire hunting!
Right?
Yeah.
So if you're a reclusive man named Mr. Rupp and you live by yourself on the outskirts outskirts of town in a small cabin, you're primed for the picking. Okay, I'm just saying.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So the mob grabs their torches and hell, probably their pitchforks, and they head off to Rupp's cabin. When they get there, they find the door open and they burst in, and a putrid smell hits their noses. I mean, there's talk about how it hit and some people backed out and had to go vomit. I mean, it just horrible. And scattered all across the cabin's interior are human and animal body parts ranging from fresh to putrid. Blood's all over the cabinets and the countertops. And so the townspeople burn the cabin. They supposedly burn the cabin. And at dawn, they form a posse because they're going to catch Mr. Rupp.
Mm-hmm.
They never found him. And to this day, it remains one of Big Stone Gap's unsolved mysteries.
Well, that is a cool vampire story, and one from right in our own backyard. Thank you for finding that, Eva.
You're very welcome, Dan. The Appalachian Mountains, I mean, oh God, they're such an amazing place and so diverse in culture. The history of the area is so rich. And many of the traditions that were practiced hundreds or so years ago, they're still practiced today. Listen to my voice. Look, I've busted it. I've busted it. Oh, I got to get rid of it. The mountain, but the mountains, it's one of the things that I really love about this area. And being born and raised in Kentucky, I've actually learned to embrace my inner hillbilly. So you can see my accent's coming out. It's
yeah.
So yeah.
I love that. Before we get into tonight's review, I want to share a little a linguistic joke about Appalachia, the northern part and the southern part.
Okay.
In the northern part, I guess the Appalachian Trail actually begins in New Hampshire,
Yeah.
right? And so the northerners call it Appalachia. But in the southern part, if you say Appalachia, they will throw an apple at you. You ever hear that?
I've never heard that. I really haven't.
Okay.
It's Appalachia.
It's Appalachia. I trust you on this one. I do. A northerner like myself.
Appalachian Mountains is how I grew up saying it.
All right.
I've never heard Appalachia. Oh, that is funny. Appalachia.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah. That's what I'm here for, Eva. Yeah. Now, before we get into tonight's review, we want to tell you who will join us for the next episode of Vamp Chat. He is an author of nonfiction, an editor, and a friend of the show.
Yes, we are super excited to invite Brian Forrest, host of Toothpicking's channel on YouTube. Brian is the foremost expert on the 1972 film Blackula, and he was on our show talking about that. And he edited the newly reissued novel from 1819 called The Black Vampire by Uriah Derrick Darcy. This is the first American vampire story, and it's set against the backdrop of the Haitian Revolution, although it's rooted in events of that time from New England.
Yeah. Black Vampire is just more than a spine-chilling tale of the undead. It is a biting critique of slavery, colonialism, and plagiarism. And we are very much looking forward to welcoming Brian Forrest back on the show Wednesday, August 26th at 7 p.m. Eastern.
One of the things I find really interesting about this and really interesting about Brian is that, he introduced Blackula to us in a completely different way. Yep. In that, as cheesy a film as it was, it broke so many. How many barriers did it break? I mean, it was staggering the number of
Well,
firsts that
well,
Blackula did.
yeah, Brian Forrest taught us that the doppelganger romance begins. It really begins with Blackula.
First male
The
on male bite.
the first male bite
Mhm.
on screen, and
Yep.
then another vampire trope that does get used in at least one episode of True Blood, the vampire suicide. The
Yeah.
very first instance of that is in Blackula. We learned that from
Well,
Brian.
yeah. And so the
Mhm,
black vampire has almost just, I mean, just as many firsts.
mhm.
So
Yeah,
it's going to be awesome. It's going to be
yeah.
absolutely awesome.
It's going to be
So,
a great time talking with them
yeah.
about that. Yeah.
Okay, it's time now for our review segment. And Dan, you've been rewatching an animated series featuring Dracula and a host of other famous vampires.
Yeah, Castlevania Season 1 was released in 2017 and quickly became one of Netflix's strongest animated series. Adapted from the classic video game franchise you might remember from 40 years ago, this 4-episode season wastes little time establishing a dark fantasy world, its compelling characters, and mature storytelling. So, Eva, would you like a little synopsis?
I already know it, but yeah, for those who haven't seen it.
Okay, the setting, Wallachia, a province in Romania. The year 1455. Let's see here. A young woman named Lisa, who wishes to be a doctor, seeks out Vlad Dracula Tepesh, a vampire with advanced scientific knowledge. Upon meeting Lisa, Dracula is intrigued by her courage and ambition. He agrees to teach her, while he, in return, offers to help him reconnect with humanity. The two fall in love and marry. 20 years later, a bishop discovers lab equipment in Lisa's home and accuses her of witchcraft and orders her burned at the stake. Devastated by the loss of his wife, Dracula declares to the people that they have 1 year to make their peace, after which every human in Wallachia will die by his hand. His son Adrian tells him to go instead after the bishop responsible, but Dracula refuses to listen and attacks him, fights him for a little bit. Dracula's grief is so deep that he feels only the death of humanity will heal him. So 1 year later, the Archbishop hosts a celebration in defiance of Dracula. And then, as promised, Dracula kills the Archbishop, destroys the church, and orders his army of demonic night creatures to kill every person left in Wallachia. As the army spreads across the land, the people start blaming the kingdom's noble family, one of whom is the last surviving member of a legendary family of monster hunters named Trevor Belmont. I'll speed through the plot and say Trevor is later joined by a magician named Sifa Belnades and Alucard, the famous alias of Adrian, the son of Dracula, who got beat up a little bit earlier. Now, Alucard is more than a mere anagram of the name Dracula. He is a Dhampir, or half-vampire of Balkan and Slavic lore, who is mortal but possesses some supernatural traits.
Okay, so remind me, what are those traits?
A Dhampir can walk in daylight. They
Okay.
possess exceptional strength and agility. They age very slowly, so slowly it allows them to live for centuries, and they possess an affinity for dark magic, telekinesis, and energy projection.
Okay, so what are their weaknesses?
Well, they have the bloodthirst, but they can go for long periods without feeding. But I guess their biggest weakness, if you can call it that, is empathy. Their capacity for love and attachment leaves them open to betrayal and psychological ambush from those who wish them harm.
Okay, I got it, but I think we've wandered away from the plot. So, what happens for the rest of the season?
Well, that's it, Eva. I just gave you the condensed version, but season 1 is only 4 episodes, and each episode is 25 minutes long maximum. So season 1 ends with Alucard, Sifa, and Trevor banding together to do the thing, which is fight Dracula.
Okay, I got it. I remember that now. That was a really short season, totally binge worthy.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I gotta, 2.5 hours to kill. Let me kill a whole season. So what are your impressions?
Okay, I really liked Vlad Dracula Tepish. Even though he unleashes mass death, he's not really the villain, or is he? He's kind of on the line because, of course, he is devastated by the loss of his wife. So we have enough moral complexity to keep his character interesting. Also, he is expertly voiced by Graham McTavish of Outlander fame. And Eva, I wonder if I could share a photo I took with Graham just a few years ago.
Sure.
Okay, I'm adding it right now. So there we are at the Kroger in Middletown, Kentucky, where Graham McTavish was promoting his new line of whiskey. I gave him an autographed copy of my book, which he kindly accepted and posed with.
That's a really cool photo. So did you try some of his whiskey?
I bought a bottle, which I still haven't opened. It is a bonded bourbon with his autograph on it, and I am thinking I will pour us a glass or two at the end of our book tour.
We're going to need it. And I'm totally down for that. Because as you know, I love a good bourbon.
As do I.
Okay, what do you think of the other characters?
Well, I guess you could say the real protagonist is Trevor Belmont. Trevor is cynical. He's the vampire hunter, comes from a long line of vampire hunters. He's cynical, he's sarcastic, and reluctant to become a hero, but gradually embraces his responsibility as the last member of that vampire hunting clan. Now, visually, the animation is impressive. The fight sequences are brutal with creative choreography. Plus, the Gothic environments capture the atmosphere that fans would expect from a Dracula tale set in the Carpathians. The biggest drawback, I think, is the season's length. With only 4 episodes, it feels more like a prologue than a complete season. And Eva, you know how I feel about prologues. I just want to get into the story.
He's like, I hate prologues. God, prologue.
So just as the story builds momentum and the main cast comes together, the credits roll. So this left me eager for more, and it also kind of lacked a satisfying payoff. But hopefully when we get a review of the other segments, the other series rather, 2 to 4, I might change my mind.
I mean, it paid off for some viewers. The entire series got 94 on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, that's the tomato meter. And it gets an 89 on the popcorn meter. So very good. I was just surprised at how season 1 zipped by, and I guess I kind of felt let down by that.
Well, I mean, seasons 2 through 4 are available, so I'm gonna look forward to your review of those. So
okay,
all right. Here on Vamp Chat, we have a rating system, and that's 20 drops of blood, with 20 being the highest. So Dan, how much blood will you spill for season 1 of Castlevania?
All right, before I give you my rating, I want to announce that my niece, Katie, who lives in Nashville, is also a huge fan of Castlevania. And Katie has agreed to join us on September 9th to give her impressions of seasons 2 through 4. And so we'll have a review and a sort of a conversation about that on September 9th. And I'm really excited to bring Katie into this discussion.
And she's what, 15?
Oh yeah, and so much smarter than her Uncle Dan. Yeah.
So this is cool. So we'll get the older person's perspective, not the old people, but older person.
Yeah.
And then we'll get the young perspective. So I think it's really cool. I think it's cool.
I'm really looking forward to that. So now, time to dispense those blood drops, as you mentioned earlier. So 20 being the highest, I'm going to give Castlevania Season 1 a good 17 drops of blood.
That's respectable.
I was just a slight bit disappointed, but you know what? It broke ground, I think, certainly in the becoming a really popular animated series. I enjoyed it. So I'm going to say you will too. Yeah. Those who are watching us right now, 17 out of 20 drops of blood.
I think that's very respectable, and it's a really good series. And you're not committing to hours and hours through a season. You're committing to 4 25-minute segments. So I mean, it's absolutely. I'm good with that.
So you have time to play more video games or watch cooking videos on YouTube or whatever. All right. Just to recap the news, our good friend Brian Forrest will be joining us on the next Vamp Chat episode, the next one, which is August 26th, where we will discuss his research into the groundbreaking story, The Black Vampire.
I believe it's also the 44th anniversary of Blackula, if memory's serving me well. And I'm sure with Brian being the foremost expert on it, I'm sure he'll touch on that a little bit too.
Oh, yeah. We'll leave time for that. Absolutely.
Yeah. And Dan, I have a surprise for you.
Ooh.
So for our episode on September 9th, I have New York Times bestselling author Grady Hendrix coming to the show.
Yes! That is a great get. Okay, and as you know, Grady, some of you, most people watching this probably know that Grady wrote just a fantastic vampire book called The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. And he wrote some other amazing horror books as well.
That's right. And he'll be right here on Vamp Chat. And everyone can watch all our episodes going forward on both our YouTube page and our Facebook page at 7 p.m. Eastern. So it's all exciting. I can't wait.
Yeah, this is going to be an amazing season, and we have another surprise too that we will announce here in a few weeks. So be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram, or you can go to the Vamp Chat with Dan and Eva webpage, and you give your email address, and you will get those special announcements early.
That's right. Just go to www.vampchat with Dan and Eva. I'll get it here in a minute.
Yeah.
Just go to vampchatwithdanandeva.com
There
and leave us your email address. All right, Dan, have we reached that point in the evening?
I believe we have, Eva.
All right, children of the night, we wish you safe dreams.
Just keep an eye open for those creatures of the night.
And if you can't sleep, we have vampire books to recommend. Be sure to sink your teeth into Dan's latest novel, Sins of the Sire, the sequel to Fiona's Guardians.
Or this might be a perfect night to devour Eva's latest novel, A Hellish Fury, which is the sequel to A Fury.
And with that,
we bid you
good
night.
You know, even face to face, we still can't get the dang thing right.
Well, the problem is we got it right, and people want us to get it.
I know.
Off.
One time.
Yeah, right. So, good night, Eva.
Good night, Eva. Listen to me. Good night, Dan.